How many of you would like to know what it means to be a parallel entrepreneur? I'm going to tell you about that coming up next on The Ripple Effect. Hi, I'm Melissa Hull, and thank you for joining me. This is The Ripple Effect, and today my guest is Jason Meyers. Thank you so much for being here today, Jason.
Oh, this is great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Jason, can you begin by telling my audience a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So what I do is help entrepreneurs unlock the wealth that's trapped in their business and help them to live the ideal lifestyle.
Wow, that seems like it seems very simplistic when you say it like that, but I'm guessing it's a little bit harder to accomplish.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Can you explain to me what you do to help people unlock that hidden wealth within their business?
A lot of entrepreneurs have a business that they've created that's actually a job. And so they're stuck on this thing that's similar to a treadmill. I call it a dreadmill. And so they're just trotting along on the dreadmill, and they're eking out a living, but they're not actually building their long-term wealth, and they're not working towards an ideal lifestyle. Really what they did was they replaced a job with another job.
That's really interesting. So when a client comes to you and that's their predicament, what are some of the first things that you do to help change that?
I think they oftentimes have lost track of why they're in business, what they're seeking to accomplish for themselves, for their family, for their loved ones. And so what we do is we kind of wind the clock back and figure out what is their current why, what is their end goal. Like, why are they doing this? Why are they putting themselves through it? Entrepreneurs have really created many times a job with unlimited risk, and it would be a lot easier to have a job and be able to take vacation, drop the keys, never think about the stuff at the office anymore. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're always on. You're never able to completely unplug. And so they lose sight of what's important. They lose sight of what the end goal is. And I like to say, begin with the end in mind. Somewhere along the way, they forget what the end is, and they just end up going through the motions.
As I sit here, I remember being in an audience and listening to you speak about kind of how you became an entrepreneur yourself. Would you mind sharing that story?
Sure. I was fortunate to have parents that worked really hard, and they set a great example for working hard, the Midwestern work ethic and all of that. But they also gave me the latitude to be able to explore the entrepreneurial world. And they gave me this opportunity to really explore what it meant to own your own business. And I started that business when I was 16 and quickly started making money with it and became a breadwinner for the family.
What kind of business did you start?
It was an arcade.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So a video arcade.
Video arcade, pinball machines,
so Pac-Man,
skill cranes.
Mrs. Pac-Man.
I'm very good at Mrs. Pac-Man, let me tell you.
Me too. Maybe we'll have to challenge each other.
We'll have a duel. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So did they give you your start? Did they give you seed money? Or did you go out there and mow lawns?
I did everything I could to get that started. I think one of the things about entrepreneurs is you have to be scrappy. Many people try to overplan. They try to create this amazing business plan, printed on the right paper with the right images and the right graphs and all the things. And at the end of the day, you just have to have an idea and you have to take action. And you have to keep taking action. And you have to realize that it's about adapting, improvising, and overcoming. And so your pursuit is constantly chasing the next piece of the puzzle and solving the next thing that comes up. And so that's what I did. I just had an idea, I had a desire, I took some action, I talked to people, I networked, and I was able to pull that off with no seed capital.
Wow.
I was able to actually get that business off the ground with virtually nothing except for some blood, sweat, and tears.
That's incredible. And you were 16.
Yeah.
Now, is that a business that you eventually sold, or how did that work out?
So it was interesting because what I did was I got that business off the ground. It started taking off, and I said, I'm really onto something here. But like all things, it runs a cycle. You don't see a lot of arcades nowadays. And so I went on to my next entrepreneurial endeavor. And at that point, I had convinced myself that I was pretty smart. And when you think you're pretty smart, you're pretty not. And so I got, my licks, and I was able to survive that, but I learned so much through that process.
I think it's interesting that sometimes entrepreneurs see setbacks as failure instead of potential opportunities for
Absolutely.
continued growth. And tell me a little bit about what you learned in those moments where you were facing some adversity in your business.
Sure.
And how did you overcome that?
So adversity in business is something that's a constant. If you're not trying hard enough, you're not failing enough. And so what I learned is that it's a natural part of the process. It's very Darwinian. The market rewards you when you're right, and it punishes you mercilessly when you're wrong. And the key is to keep taking those ideas that you have and keep putting them out to the world and see what kind of an impact you can make. And it doesn't matter what kind of business it is. We're at a winery. This is a phenomenal business that creates, product and jobs and an impact on the community, pays taxes, helps pave the roads. So you think of just a drop of wine in a glass, how much impact that can make. And all of your business ideas can have huge impact. But if they never get out of your head and you never take action on them, you're never going to make the impact that you're meant to make.
That's
a lot
really
of people
true.
give up.
Yeah, that's so true. I think people let their fear stop them. Would you say that you see that a lot in out there in the world? Or people are just afraid to take action?
They do. So they fall into a few different categories. So you have the people that have an idea for a business. Maybe there's a yearning or a passion that they'd like to explore, but they don't have just that little extra ounce of something that will push them over, the tipping point of falling into the action that's required. I'm a big believer in taking just the next 2 or 3 actions to move things forward. If you do that, you're in a different place than you were before you started. You take the next few after that, before you know it, you've accomplished a lot of great things. And people either are stuck getting started, or they've gotten started and they've ran into some challenges. And I help the entrepreneurs that are struggling, that are looking to unlock more of their ideal lifestyle from that business. And it's usually because they've structured the business in such a way where it's an absolute grind. The dreadmill, as I talked about.
The dreadmill, which I think that's a really well-crafted phrase, the dreadmill, because how many people get up and really enjoy what they do?
Yeah.
And and when you're an entrepreneur, if you've created this dreadmill, it must just feel like a weight every day, just kind of facing this.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about what drives you, what motivates you.
I love to see the impact on people's lives as they make these changes. You ever talk about sports? Like golf is a great example where the difference between a great golf swing and a terrible golf swing is very little. The difference between being able to put that ball where you want it on the course and ending up in the woods, it's the difference is fractions of a millimeter. It's muscle memory and the ability to focus in your mind. And seeing people make very small changes in how they run their business, how they run their life, how they plan things, the kind of action they take, the impact of that is huge. It's for me one of the great ways to experience true leverage in the world is by making these small changes in the business and in their lives to really structure things in a more ideal way.
I see. So it's about adding value is kind of what I'm hearing, finding the way to add value back into what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's really interesting. At the top of the show today, I introduced a term, parallel entrepreneurialism,
Sure.
Something that I learned from you, and I'm hoping that when we come back that you'll dive into that subject a little bit more and help explain how that can really benefit some of these entrepreneurs out there on that treadmill, how to get off of it and really do some amazing things. So please join us, and we'll see you when we come back from the break.
For more information about Jason Meyers, visit jasonmeyersmentor.com.
Welcome back. This is The Ripple Effect. I'm your host, Melissa Hull, and I'm joined by my guest, Jason Meyers. And Jason, we've been discussing kind of entrepreneurialism and how sometimes people who go into business for themselves create the treadmill.
The treadmill.
And how to get off that treadmill and start really loving life again. Now, at the top of the show, we talked a little bit about parallel entrepreneurialism, and I'm really wanting to know more about that.
Sure. So one of the things people like to call themselves who are entrepreneurs, they like to call themselves serial entrepreneurs. And that's not the breakfast food, right? It means that what they think of themselves as is someone who has an entrepreneurial idea, starts a business, goes through the process of selling that business, closing that business down, moving on from that business in some way, and then they go on to their next idea. And they're always chasing the next idea. That's really what being a serial entrepreneur is. And my philosophy is different. It is that if you structure things properly and you have the right mentorship, you're able to actually put more ideas out into the world by practicing parallel entrepreneurialism. And the idea there is to structure things in such a way where you don't have to be the person that is creating all of these businesses. You can have the idea and start the motion, start the action towards that, but harness others and leverage others so that you're truly running multiple businesses or owning multiple businesses simultaneously. And so I have a particular formula and a framework for that helps entrepreneurs kind of get out of their own way and get off of this treadmill and actually step back and work on all of these businesses instead of in one of them, which is much more liberating because as entrepreneurs, you're constantly coming up with a new idea, wanting to go try something different.
Yeah.
And so you don't need to stop, you just need to understand how you can actually step away from that business and into the next idea that you're most passionate about and still benefit from the wealth that that first business creates.
So keep the passion infused in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really interesting, because oftentimes I think the mindset is you have one business and you have to work on the one business and make that successful before you can begin another. And you're saying no.
Yeah, it's actually backwards. People have it wrong. And so there's been a lot of focus in teaching people to be passionate about something and chase that. Find one passion and put yourself 100% into that. And what I have found over time, in my experience, is that entrepreneurs naturally go through this evolutionary cycle with their business. It's about growing. You know, the only way to read a book is to turn the page, begin new chapters. And so in your business, there's times when you are the person who ideates. So you come up with the idea. And then you begin to strategize how to get the business going. Then you start to execute the business, all the different tactical things with the business. And then you move on into systemization where you're delegating to others, you're creating repeatable processes and things like that. And then stepping back and just providing leadership, long-term leadership. And so if you follow that framework that I have, you can actually have many, many different businesses at the exact same time. So whether it's an Elon Musk or a Richard Branson, insert name of all of these famous entrepreneurs who have multiple companies simultaneously, they have it figured out. And most entrepreneurs are prisoners of one business stuck on a treadmill.
Wow, that's really powerful. That's a very powerful thing that you just said. Most entrepreneurs are stuck in one business and they are prisoner to the treadmill. Wow, really impactful. How many businesses are you currently, managing or own right now?
About 20.
About 20.
About 20.
Where do you find the time, Jason?
It's about providing the leadership to great people and staying out of their way, but being there when they need you. And so what I've done is leveraged the framework that I've perfected over the years, built an organization of people that I know, like, and trust, and that I can count on to move these businesses forward. And at the end of the day, when they need some leadership or a good swift, kick in the right direction, I'm there for them.
That's great. Wow. So with 20 businesses, how much, are you a slave to these businesses? Are you constantly working? Or tell me, honestly, that seems like a lot to manage, even though you have this framework of people. What's your life like on a daily basis?
I get that question all the time because people that follow me on social media say you're constantly on the go. And the pictures that I post are more lifestyle focused than even business focused, because what I've done is I've created the ideal lifestyle for myself, which involves a lot of travel, a lot of beautiful places like where we are today, a lot of beautiful people, spending time with people that I want to spend time with, and letting the system work for me. So that I can work on the business, the bigger strategy things, the big decisions. Let everybody else worry about the small details. And I find myself sometimes getting pulled down in and going really deep on a business, and I'm good at that, but it's not the highest and best use of my time.
That's interesting. So with 20 businesses, are you always looking at and evaluating which one is maybe, do you sell these businesses off? Are you constantly looking to invest in new companies? And
I'm always looking at opportunity.
Okay.
Right? So as an entrepreneur, I think the whole shiny object syndrome, we all have that. But what I like to do is I like to look for just the right opportunity to put into the portfolio, if you will. And it's got to have the right mix of market opportunity, the right mix of players involved in the business, and the right opportunity for me to be able to add my special little twist to things to make them better. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're creating jobs, right? We're bringing product to market, providing services to the market. And so I look at it as the 5-way win. If I can create a 5-way win, then we are going somewhere.
Wow, it's so interesting, and I really appreciate you sharing all this. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this discussion. Thank you, and we'll see you on the other side.
For more information about Jason Meyers, visit jasonmeyersmentor.com.
Welcome back to The Ripple Effect. I'm your host, Melissa Hull, and we're joined by my guest, Jason Meyer. And we've had just a really great discussion about entrepreneurialism. And I want to kind of talk to the youth today a little bit as well. We've talked to business owners, but what about somebody who's wanting to start a business? What are some of the best tips and best advice you could give a young person out there that really wants to dive in?
So one of the phrases is, there's nothing to it but to do it. The barrier to entry to starting a business is lower today than it's ever been in probably the history of the world. All you need is an idea and a computer and a little bit of heart, action behind that. So I tell people, just get started. Cut your teeth on something. Try something, learn from that, iterate. Go to the next idea.
So, creating a business from a computer, do people have a lot of success, or is that hard to do? Because as I look at business, having an idea and then having a computer, what can I really create from a computer? What kind of business can I create?
It was interesting. I was at an entrepreneurial event recently, and we were talking about the youth and about how they're actually making us all look really bad because what they're doing is they're able to leverage social media in ways that many of us just haven't figured out. And they're into Snapchat and all these other things. And we were talking about some 14-year-olds who created an app and sold their business for $5 million.
At 14?
In a matter of months.
Wow.
And so I think it's really about finding an opportunity in the market, taking a little bit of action. When it starts to take traction and get hold in the marketplace, then you just double down, and it's all about momentum. A lot of these big stories you hear of early successes like that are because they struck a nerve in society. They started getting traction on an idea, started getting users, followers. Those eyeballs are worth plenty of money. And so one of the conversations people are having is about creating edutainment. So not just entertainment and not just education, but the blend of the two, and how if you do that, you can really start to resonate with people, at a more core level, so that they like you and they're willing to follow you and ultimately buy whatever it is you have to sell.
So is the likability factor really important in creating business today?
I think you can't get anything done without other people. And so likability is, of course, very important. At the end of the day, people have to like your idea, your product, your service. So it has to serve some need, some unmet need in the marketplace. But likability of the people that you work with, people that you interact with, is key to success. You can't get anywhere without other people.
So Jason, tell me a little bit about the type of client you like working with.
The ideal client is an entrepreneur that has a business and they haven't realized the full potential of that business. Maybe they feel stuck, they're at a plateau, they're looking for the exit at some point in the future. They know they need to start looking for that and planning for that, but they fear that the business isn't worth as much as they need it to be worth. So I work with a lot of baby boomers. Something a lot of people don't realize is that there are 10,000 baby boomers a day hitting 65, and 16.4% of those own their own small business. And the vast majority of those statistics from the government and other places that research this tell us that the vast majority of those cannot be passed down to the children of the heirs. So they just end up either closing or selling for far less than they're worth. So solving that problem, those are my ideal clients. But I work with startups, growth stage companies that are experiencing the exact same problems. How do we get this business to be worth more so we can make a bigger impact in the world?
Wow, that's really wonderful. So it seems like there's no short supply of the type of person that you want to be working with. So how do people actually get a hold of you? How can they find you?
One of the best ways to get a hold of me is at my website, which is jasonmeyersmentor.com. And various social media is a great way to connect with me and get to know more about what I'm doing.
Well, that's really wonderful. Before we go, Jason, I would really like for you to just, I know that you have a giving heart. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you do aside from business that just really, keep you going.
Wow. So many different things. For me, I was impacted by a mentor of mine a while back who said, if you're not helping people, you're hurting people. And I said, well, I want to help people. I don't want to hurt people. And he said, yeah, but if you're not sharing what you know and getting that out to the world, then you're actually not helping people. So if you're not helping people, you're hurting people. And it kind of worked backwards on me, where if he would have just said, hey, you have to take what you know and make it available to lots of people, I'd have said, I don't need to do that. I'm good. But looking at it from the perspective of how can you help more people and getting that message out there really resonated with me. I think I'm a teacher at heart, perpetual sponge for knowledge, always seeking to know more about how things work. Really, from the time I was 6 years old, my mother taught me to use a screwdriver, and I started tearing everything apart. Trying to figure out how everything worked became a terror. Got to the point where I wouldn't get new presents. For my birthday, I wouldn't get anything because they were afraid I was going to take it apart instead of enjoying it the way it was made. But I was just naturally inquisitive. And so taking what I've learned and helping other people accomplish more with their lives is really what turns me on. It's what I'm driven to do. And the business is just a way to make that happen.
So, the show's name is The Ripple Effect, and what you've just talked about is exactly what I believe in. I believe it's so important to share our knowledge and really create the environment where we're helping other people live their best life, or
Absolutely.
Actualize their dreams. And it's been a real treat getting to hear your thoughts today, getting your opinions and your advice. And I want to thank you for being here with us today. And again, this has been just an amazing opportunity. So tell me again where people can find you.
My website's really the best way,
Okay.
jasonmeyersmentor.com.
Wonderful.
They can connect with me there, and we can begin a conversation to see how we can help.
All right. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. This has been The Ripple Effect, and I'm Melissa Hall.